Hello, welcome to today's video. Now, I'm going to get straight to it. I think one of the most important things being an actor is learning lines and doing it the most efficient way possible. Now, I've tried many different techniques throughout the years, and I often sometimes jump from different types of techniques depending on time that I have, what type of role it is, and whichever one's just working for me at the time. So today I wanted to go through different types of methods and ways that you can sufficiently learn your lines and different processes of how you can do this, and just overall how to learn lines sufficiently. Because at the end of the day, when you've got a short time frame or you just, want to make the most of your time, you want to find the one that works for you. So I'd say just have a little go at some of these, see if you recognize any of them and let me know. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. I also want to say today that most of the things I'm just going to skim over. Of course, I could go into so much more depth about each one of these subjects and how you do it in the process and so forth. But I just thought today I would list them off, and if you're curious about any of them, let me know and I can do another video explaining more about what each one of them are and how you do it. Anyway, I'm going to get straight into this video. So the first one is script analysis. Pretty much just breaking down your script step by step. Figuring out the reactions, the objectives, the tasks, the motivations. And what it basically means is just trying to figure out what you're making them feel in that motive of the other character. And I find that by doing this, you're going to be reading over the script a million times, and it will subconsciously just go into your mind and you'll start to associate the feeling to what the lines are. Second one is repetition, but also known as rote learning. Now you probably already know this one, but repetition is so key. Just going over it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Again, it can be a bit tedious, granted, but for me it's the best way to get it in your noggin. And this is pretty much just about having a routine and repetition. Learning your lines inside and out. And I know, of course, this sounds obvious, but let me explain a little bit more. What I mean by this is just writing it down, just repeatedly. Like all your lines, just keep writing them down. Now, this always reminds me of like the Simpson intro, where Bart's constantly like writing what he's done. Think of it like that, just constantly writing your lines over and over again. I often also put my hand over the text. So I will read the first line or the first person's character, and then I will have to say what my line is, and then I can move it to the next line and so forth and keep doing it. But if you get it wrong, start all the way at the beginning. Cover up the next lines, read them out, and keep going down, just breaking it down. And of course, this might be obvious and something that you don't have to say, but for me, highlighting my script is so key. For me, colours, things that pop out that I can focus on, that I know is my lines, makes it a lot easier for me to kind of wrap my mind around it. Maybe try highlighting it in a colour that, kind of speaks to you, or you can still actually read the lines easily. And I just think highlighting enables you to focus on your lines specifically, and then once you know it inside and out, then you can obviously look at the other lines. Now this is like a specific method, and I'm probably gonna butcher the name of it. I cannot read it for the life of me. Thank you, dyspraxia. So I think this is how you say it, but it's called mnemonic device. I'll put it on the screen right here so you can literally read it and be able to Google it. Now I do this one all the time, and I never actually knew the name of it until I researched it. But what you basically do is you take the first letter from each word of your lines and you write them down one after another. Include the punctuations and things like that, so you're still able to see the structure of your sentence. And what will happen over time, you'll start to remember what the words are actually when you start to associate with just the letter. And then this will transition to you not being able to need to see the letters, and you'll be able to know the script inside and out. It's a great way to quickly learn scripts and to be able to see the image in your head of what the next ones are, and then to be able to recite them and not worry having, a massive script there or overwhelming yourselves with papers and papers. For me, it does help a lot, and I'm able to take in lines quite quickly like that if I need to. Getting on your feet. You've probably all heard this. This is a very key thing, but I think for anyone who's a practical person and a creative person, just moving, getting on your feet and moving around really helps to start to memorize your lines. Especially if you actually have certain directions and movements within, your text. I think for a lot of people it helps by doing the physical action. It helps to know the cue of what the line is, because you're going off that impulse of what, you know, your movement is, your action. If you have to go pick up a certain thing, you know that your line is about picking up a phone. Do you know what I mean? Things like that. But just by moving around, it really does help me memorize it a lot better, and it gets my kind of angst and all my pent up frustration, I think, of stressing about trying to retain the lines. I can let that out by actually moving around and walking. But definitely, if you have the creative freedom of adding movement and actions to your piece, this is such a key thing of just, you know, experimenting and trying different things. If possible, run your lines with someone else. It doesn't matter who it is. Just having someone to be able to read the other person's lines makes it such a different way of learning and responding, you know, your lines. I think a lot of us, we get too stuck in our head and we don't say our scripts out loud. We just, you know, think of what our lines are, and we kind of go a bit internally of what we're doing, and we forget about the other person. So having someone there reading it, whether it's a family, friends, you name it, even Zoom calls these days, just having someone to be able to recite the lines back to you is, you know, I feel that next step of retaining the lines and keeping you on your feet. You know, if you forget your lines and you don't know the next line, it really kind of tests you if you actually know your script at all, or especially for me. And then I can't rely on just, you know, looking at the next line and going, oh, that's it. It really kind of tests you, and it gets you retaining those lines a lot better. But yeah, if you don't have a scene partner, that's perfectly fine. You can also just record your lines on your phone, on your stuff, and then leave blanks for obviously you to respond and to reply. Or you can record the other person's lines and you can practice the responses as well. You know, if you have a crazy schedule or you're traveling to and from places and, you know, you physically can't have a script out in front of you, just being able to hear it audibly, I think really helps. Again, practicing that cue of you going off their lines and getting familiar with their lines. I think a lot of us, we get too focused on what we're doing in our lines, and we have no idea what they're going to say and what their next line is and what we're cueing off, what we're reacting off. So it's just another way of using that repetition of retaining your lines, but by hearing it. For me, I always find that I learn lines a lot better by hearing it. I'm a very either visual or audible. I don't know what the whole word for that is. I don't know. If you know the word that I'm trying to think of, please let me know. But I just think it's a great option if you're on your own and you don't have anyone else who can help you, and you can just, you know, retain your lines in another way. Think of it kind of like music. You know, sometimes when you just play music in the background and then all of a sudden you realise within a week you know all the lyrics of the song. It's kind of like that. But the only thing I'd say watch out for, be careful of getting into the rhythm of, you know, reacting to that tone that you've recorded in, whether it's the other character's lines or you've recorded your own lines for you to remember. Yeah, you don't want to get stuck in the pacing or the way that you're saying it in the recording, because obviously you still want to be able to include the creative freedom of how you're feeling and how the character's going to react and respond. So just take that into consider. But it's a great option if you're someone who has to travel and you're just not able to literally look at a script. I find often when I'm driving to auditions or to locations, if I have it playing in the car of my lines or the other person's lines and I'm responding to it, it's a lot safer. And my last one is just to experiment with it. I think sometimes we can get too focused on what's on paper and you have to literally be sitting there stressing about you trying to retain it. I think just having a bit of fun with your script, trying different things and, you know, exploring certain things you may have not tried before can sometimes help you just learn your lines. And I just think it lessens the risk of you getting too stuck in the certain way of how you've learned it, with the phrases, the tempo, the, you know, the dynamics of how you're presenting it. I think doing something different and, you know, getting yourself out of that rhythm really helps with really internalizing what you're saying and make it just sound something that you as the character are saying, and it's not sounding like you've just retaining the lines and, you know, giving it back off. Giving it back off? Presenting it back. You know what I mean. It just keeps it fresh and, you know, keeping it an enjoyable process for you. So that's it. That's all my examples for today. And as I said, most of them I either practice and try and failed at. There's so many different ways that you can learn. But just remember that we all do it differently. And just because one method works for someone else doesn't mean that it's going to or has to work for you. I think it's just trying to find the best process for you, and often not, it's going to be different for every role and every different situation. Sometimes we don't always have the luxury of having a week or two to learn the lines, and we need to be able to get in your head straight away. So having alternative versions of how you learn your scripts really helps when you're under high pressure and intensity. And if you haven't tried some of these methods, just give it a go. Find one of the scripts you like, or just a random play or scene from a film. But if you do, let me know how it goes. I'd love to hear what worked or didn't work for you. And if you do have anything that you personally do that I haven't mentioned and I don't know about, I'd love to hear them, because I think as performers we can always learn, or even just as humans. There's always room to learn and improve your craft and, you know, just get better, bigger and better and bigger, better. I'm losing my thought process here. But yeah, there's always room to improve. That's just what I'm trying to say. But all the best of luck with learning your lines. You will smash your auditions, your self-tapes. You got this. Keep going. And yeah, just give yourself a little break, a breather. It's always good to sometimes sleep on it if you're not retaining stuff. A good night's sleep, and you sometimes don't realise how much you've retained the next day. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Alright, take care.